In unicellular organisms, a single cell performs all the vital activities, for example, digestion, respiration, excretion, etc. In case of multicellular organisms, specialized functions are performed by different groups of cells. As blood flows for transportation of O2, Colorado-2, food hormones and waste material, muscle cells are involved in movement, etc. In plants, vascular tissue conduct food and water from one plant to another part of the plant. Thus, multicellular organisms possess well-developed division of provide highest possible efficiency or particular function. A tissue is defined as a group of cells with similar structure, organized to do a common function. Term tissue was coined by Bichette. As plants are fixed or stationary, most of their tissues are of supportive type. Animals move around in search of food, mate and shelter, so they consume more energy as compared to plants. Plants have some localized regions with special tissue, but there is no such distinct regions in animals. Growth in animals remains uniform. Branch of biology deals with the study of tissue is called histology. Plant tissue. Mainly they are of two types. A. Meristematic tissue. Y. Meristematic, Y. Permanent. These are simple living tissues having thin-walled, compactly arranged immature cells which are capable of division and formation of new cells. Main features of meristematic tissues are A. G1A SA G2A M cell cycle is switched on. A. Thin primary cell wall cellulosic. B. C. Intercellular spaces are absent, compact tissue. Generally vacuoles are absent, dense cytoplasm and prominent nuclei are present. D. A. F. Large number of cell organelles are present. Active metabolic state, stored food is absent. Actively dividing cells are present in growing regions of plants, e.g. root and shoot tips. E. A. Classification on the basis of origin. Primary promeristem derived directly from the meristems of embryo. They consist of cells derived from primary meristem. They add to primary growth of plants. B. Secondary, formed by permanent tissues. These are having cells derived from primary permanent tissue. They usually add to the diameter of plants. Permanent tissue dedifferentiation. Secondary meristem. E. Classification on the basis of location. A. Apical meristem, it is present at the growing tips of stems and roots. Cell division in this tissue leads to the elongation of stem and root, thus it is involved in primary growth of the plant. B. Intercalary meristem, it is present behind the apex. It is the part of apical meristem which is left behind during growth period. These are present at the base of leaf and internode region. These lead to the increase in the length of leaf primary, e.g. in grass stem, bamboo stem, mint stem, etc. C. Lateral meristem, it is also called as secondary meristem. It occurs along the sides of longitudinal axis of the plant. It gives rise to the vascular tissues. Causes growth in girth of stem and root. They are responsible for secondary growth. Exercise Objective DPP 5.11. A group of cells having common origin and performing similar function is called A. Tissue, B. Organ, C. Organ system, D. Cell aggregate 2. Meristems are cells that A. Store food, B. Help in excretion, C. Provide support, D. Divide continuously to produce new cells 3. Plant length is increased by the activity of A. Apical meristem, B. Lateral meristem, C. Cambium, D. All of the above 4. In plants, cell division is restricted to A. Meristematic cells, B. Permanent cells, C. Xylem, D. Phloem 5. In grasses, the length of increases by the activity of A. Apical meristem, B. Intercalary meristem, C. Lateral meristem, D. Secondary meristem 6. Special feature of dividing cells is A. Large lacunar, B. Thick cell walls, C. Dense cytoplasm devoid of lacunar, D. Large intercellular spaces 7. Totipotency is present in A. Meristem, B. Cambium, C. Phloem, D. Caudate. Which of the following is a feature of meristematic tissues? A. Thin cell wall, B. Compact tissue, C. Large no of cell organelles are present in the cells of tissues. D. All of the above. 9. Which of the following plant tissue is formed by permanent tissue? A. Primary tissue. B. Secondary tissue. None of above 10. C. Both of above. D. Which of the following plant tissues causes growth in girth of stem and root? A. Apical meristem. C. Lateral meristem. B. Intercalary meristem. D. None of the above. Subjective DPP 5.2. Very short ANSVER type questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The tissues derived directly from the meristem of embryo is called as a group of cells with similar structure organized to do a common function is celled as. Which plant tissue remains in active metabolic state always? Short answer type questions. Define tissue. What do you mean by division of labor? Long answer type question. What is issue? Explain meristematic plant tissue. Tissue. Permanent tissue. The permanent tissues are composed of those cells which have lost their capability to divide. They have definite shape, size and thickness. The permanent tissue may be dead or living. The division and differentiation of the cells of meristematic tissues give rise to permanent tissues. In cell differentiation, developing tissue and organs change from simple to more complex forms to become specialized for specific functions. The cells of permanent tissue lose the capacity to divide and attain a permanent shape, size and function. A. Depending upon the structure and composition, the permanent tissues are classified into two types. I. Simple permanent tissues. These are made up of same type of cells, which are similar structurally and functionally. They include two types of tissue. A. Protective tissues. These tissues are primarily protective in function. They consist of epidermis. Epidermis forms one cell-thick outermost layer of various body organs of plants such as leaves, flowers, stems and roots. Epidermis is covered outside by cuticle. Cuticle is a waterproof layer of waxy substance called as cutin which is secreted by the epidermal cells. Cuticle is very thick in xerophytes. Cells of epidermis of leaves are not continuous at some places due to the presence of small pores called as stomata. Each stomata is guarded by a pair of bean-shaped cells called as guard cells. These are the only epidermal cells which possess chloroplasts, the rest being colorless. Functions. I. The main function of epidermis is to protect the plant from desiccation and infection. E. Cuticle of epidermis cuts the rate of transpiration and evaporation of water and prevents wilting. E. Stomata in epidermis allow gaseous exchange to occur during photosynthesis respiration. IV. Stomata also helps in transpiration. Cork of phloem. In older roots and stems, tissues at the periphery become cork cells or phloem cells. Cork is made up to dead cells with thick walls and do not have any intercellular spaces. The cell walls in cork deposit waxy substance called as suberin. The cells of cork become impermeable to water and gases due to the deposition of suberin. The cork cells are without any protoplasm but are filled with resins or tannins. Functions. I. Cork is protective in function. Cork cells prevent desiccation, infection and mechanical injury. E. Imperviousness, lightness, toughness, compressibility and elasticity make the cork commercially valuable. E. Cork is used for insulation as shock absorber in linoleum. IV. Cork is used in the making of a variety of sport goods such as cricket balls, table tennis, shuttlecocks, wooden paddles etc. B. Supporting tissue. These are supportive in function and of three types. Parenchyma. It is the fundamental tissue. Tissue first time evolved in bryophyte. Thin-walled cells, oval or spherical in structure. Cell wall mainly composed of cellulose and pectin. Large central vacuole for food and water storage. Primary function as food storage. Some parenchyma involved in excretory substance storage are so called as idioblast, storing such as resin, tannin, gums and oils. In typical parenchyma chlorophyll is absent. Chloroplast containing parenchyma tissue are chlorenchyma which perform photosynthesis e.g. mesophyll of leaves. In hydrophytic plants aerenchyma, a type of parenchyma containing air spaces, provides buoyancy. Parenchyma provides turgidity to cells. Kalenechyma, it is the living mechanical tissue. Elongated cells with thick corners. Localized cellulose and pectin thickening. Provides flexibility to plant parts and easy bending of various parts of plant. Present only in herbaceous dicot stem. Present at thin margin of leaves. Few chloroplasts may be present. It gives mechanical strength and elasticity to the growing stems. Sclerenchyma, scleras hard. Strengthening tissue. Composed of extremely thick walled cells with little or no protoplasm. Cells are dead and possess very thick linified walls. Lignin as waterproof material. Intercellular spaces are absent. Cells of sclerenchyma are of two types. Sclerades, these are also called grid cells or stone cells. These are small cells where lumen is so small due to higher thickening of cell wall as present in drupe fruit, mango, coconut, walnut, in legume seeds, macrosclerade. Fibers, they are very long, narrow, thick, linified cells. Lumen as large as compared to sclerades. Generally 1-3 mm long. In the thick walls of both the fibers and sclerades are present thin areas called as pits. Sclerenchyma fibers are used in the manufacture of ropes, mats and certain textile fibers. Jute and coir are obtained from the thick bundles of fibers. A complex permanent tissue, it consists of more than one type of cells which work together as a unit. It helps in transportation of organic materials, water and minerals. It is also known as conducting or vascular tissue. Xylem and phloem together form vascular bundles. A. Xylem, also known as wood and is a vascular and mechanical tissue. Thick-walled cells are found in the form of tubular passages. Xylem consists of four types of cells called as elements. Tracheids, T are elongated angular dead cells, primitive elements mainly involved in conduction of water and minerals in gymnosperms. Vessels, they are advanced element generally found in angiosperms. Vessels are cylindrical tube-like structures placed one above the other end to end which form a continuous channel for efficient conduction of water. Xylem parenchyma, they are small and thick-walled parenchymatous cells. Subjected for storage of starched food. Xylem sclerenchyma, they are non-living fibers with thick walls and narrow cavities provide mechanical support. Except xylem parenchyma, all other xylem elements are dead. Hadrome, tracheids and vessels are collectively called hadrome as main conducting elements in xylem. The annual rings present in the trunk of a tree are xylem rings. By counting the number of annual rings we can determine the age of a tree. B. Phloem, they also consist of both parenchymatous and sclerenchymatous cells. Phloem consists of four types of element. Sieve tubes. Sieve tubes are slender tube-like structures made up of elongated, thin-walled cells placed end to end. The end walls of sieve tube cells are perforated by numerous pores are called as sieve plates. Nucleus of sieve cell degenerates at maturity, however. Cytoplasm persists because of protoplasmic continuation of sieve tube with companion cell through plasmodesmata. Sieve cells possess slime protein or protein which is concerned with growth and repair of sieve cells. Companion cells have dense cytoplasm and prominent nuclei. Sieve cells and companion cells are so-called sister cells because they originate from single mother cell. Phloem fiber, they give mechanical support to sieve tubes. Phloem parenchyma, they store food and help in radial conduction of food. Leptum, main part of phloem involved in conduction of food, which is sieve tube. In xylem only unidirectional movement is possible while in phloem bidirectional movement can occur. In phloem except phloem sclerenchyma all elements are living. Exercise Objective DPP 6.11. A permanent plant tissue consisting of thin-walled living cells as A. Parenchyma, B. Collenchyma, C. Sclerenchyma, D. Xylem 2. A permanent plant tissue made up of living having thickening at the comers as A. Sclerenchyma, B. Collenchyma, C. Parenchyma, D. Phloem 3. The main function of sclerenchyma is to help in the A. Conduction of food, B. Synthesis of food, C. Exchange of gases, D. Mechanical support 4. The wall of cork cells are thickened by the deposition of A. Cutin, B. Suberin, C. Lignin, D. Pectin 5. The wax-like substance present in the cell wall of onion skin is A. Pectin, B. Lignin, C. Cellulose, D. Suberin 6. The outer wall of epidermis in stems and leaves has a waxy covering made up of A. Lignin, B. Suberin, C. Pectin, D. Cutin. 7. Parenchyma differs from sclerenchyma in A. Retaining cytoplasm at maturity, B. Having thick walls, C. Having a wide lumen, D. Being meristematic. 8. Linified elongated bead cells are A. Parenchyma, B. Collenchyma, C. Sclerenchyma, D. Epidermis. 9. Which of the following plant tissue lacks protoplasm at maturity? A. Sclerenchyma, B. Collenchyma. 10. D. Epidermis. In plants, phloem tissues perform the function of A. Conduction of water, C. Parenchyma, B. Conduction of food, C. Photosynthesis, D. Mechanical support. Subjective DPP 6.2. Very short answer type questions. 1, 2, 3. Sieve tubes and companion cells are found in tissue, xylem, phloem, collenchyma. Long, narrow, dead cells having a thick deposition of lignin in the cell wall are called cells. Parenchyma, cambium, sclerenchyma. Which tissue is responsible for transport of water in plants? Short answer type questions. 4, 5, 6. Name the different elements of xylem and phloem. In hydrophytes, xylem is less developed. Why? Long answer type question. Mention the role of parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Tissue. Animal tissue. Outline classification of animal tissue. Animal tissue. The study of microscopic structure of tissues is called as histology. Cells of a tissue are often held together by cell junctions. A. Epithelial tissue. Epi means above and thelial means to grow. Always grows on some other types of tissue. Cells of epithelium are set very close to each other and the tissue rests on a non-cellular basement membrane. Consist of single layer of cells. Blood vessels are absent and non-nervous in nature. It covers all the organs and lines the cavities of hollow organs like stomach. It is primarily protective in function. Epithelial tissues are classified as I. Squamous epithelium, also called pavement epithelium. Cells arranged end to end like tiles on a floor. Cells are polygonal in surface view. It forms the delicate lining of cavities, mouth, esophagus, nose, pericardium, alveoli etc., blood vessels and covering of the tongue and skin. Epithelial cells are arranged in many layers stratum to prevent wear and tear in skin. This pattern is stratified Squaller's epithelium. A. Cubical epithelium, they are cube-like cells that fit closely. Cells look like squares in section, but free surface appears hexagonal. It is found in kidney tubules, thyroid vesicles and in glands, salivary glands, sweat glands. It forms germinal epithelium of gonads, testes and ovaries. It involves in absorption, excretion and secretion. It also provides mechanical support. E. Columnar epithelium, columnar means pillar-like epithelium. It forms lining of stomach, small intestine and colon, forming mucous membranes. Border of microvilli is present at the free surface end of each cell which increases absorption efficiency in small intestine. IV. Ciliated epithelium. Cells may be cubical or columnar. On its free surface are present protoplasmic outgrowths called cilia. It helps in the movement of ova in the fallopian tube. B. Connective tissue. The cells of the connective tissue are widely spaced and embedded in an intercellular matrix. The mature of matrix decides the function of tissue. White and yellow fibers are present in the matrix. Their basic function is to provide support to different organs and keeping them in place. I. Fluid or vascular tissue. A. Blood and lymph. Blood is a connective tissue. Fluid matrix of blood is plasma having wandering or floating cells, called corpuscles. Blood helps in the transportation of various materials such as nutritive substances, gases, excretory products, hormones etc. Plasma. Colon. Constitution. 90 to 91%. 7%. Fibrinogen, globulin 0.9%. etc. Form 55% part of blood. Colon. Corpuscles forms 45% part of blood. Water. Colon. Protein, albumin. Inorganic salt. RBCs, they are also called as erythrocytes containing red-colored respiratory pigment called hemoglobin that helps in transportation of oxygen. WBCs, leukocytes, they are also celled as soldiers of the body. They are irregular, amoeboid, phagocytic cells that protect our body by engulfing bacterial and other foreign particles. They are of 5 types: monocytes, lymphocytes, basophiles, neutrophiles, eosinophils. Blood platelets or thrombocytes, they are spindle-shaped cells which are involved in clotting of blood. E. Skeletal tissue, it is hard connective tissue that forms supportive framework of the body. It is of 2 types. A. Bone. Matrix of bone is very hard because of salts such as calcium phosphate, CaCO3, 60 to 70% etc. And a protein osane. Bone cells, osteoblasts, are embedded in this hard matrix. Matrix is deposited in the form of concentric layers of lamellae formed round a central canal, Haversian canal. The dun cells occupy small spaces between the concentric layers of matrix. The long bones are usually hollow, containing cavity called as marrow cavity. It has full bone marrow. B. Cartilage. This tissue is elastic, less harder as compared to bone. Elasticity is due to the presence of chondrin protein. Cells are called as chondroblast, which are widely spaced and matrix is reinforced by fibers. It occurs at joint of bones, in the nose, ear, trachea and larynx. It provides flexibility and great tensile strength. C. Connective tissue proper. It is the most abundant type of connective tissue. It is further divided into following types. D. Areolar tissue. It is the most distributed connective tissue in the body. This tissue fills spaces inside organs and is found between the skin and muscles, around blood vessels, nerves and in the bone marrow. There are 2 types of fibers. A. Adipose tissue. These are oval and round cells, filled with fat globules. The cells are called as adipocytes. It found in subcutaneous layer below the skin, around the heart, brain and below the eyeballs. It acts as an insulator and prevents loss of heat from the body. B. White fibrous connective tissue. They are very little matrix containing abundant white fibers forming layers. Bundles of this tissue are called as tendons, which attaches muscles to the bones. C. Yellow fibrous connective tissue. They are very elastic due to the presence of a network of yellow fibers in its matrix called as ligament, which attaches bone to bone. Exercise objective DPP 7.11. The entire body surface and cavities inside the body are lined by a. Muscle tissue. B. Epithelial tissue. C. Connective tissue. D. Nervous tissue 2. Which one of the following is a fluid connective tissue? A. Areolar tissue. B. Cartilage. C. Blood. D. Ligaments 3. The tissue that attaches muscles to the bones is A. Cartilage. B. Tendon. C. Ligament. D. Blood 4. The tissue that joins one bone to the other is A. Ligament. B. Tendon. C. Blood. D. Cartilage 5. Areolar tissue is A. Nervous tissue. B. Muscular tissue. C. Connective tissue. D. Epithelial tissue 6. Tendon is a structure which connects A bone with another bone. B. A muscle with a bone. C. A nerve with a muscle. D. A muscle with a muscle 7. Fluid part of blood after removal of corpuscles is A. Plasma. B. Lymph. C. Serum. D. Vaccine 8. Which of the following structures joins skeletal muscle to bone? A. Ligament. B. Tendon. C. Blood. D. Bone 9. Yellow muscle fibers are also called as A. Bone. B. Muscle. C. Ligament. D. None of these 10. Ligament joins A. Bone the muscle. B. Muscle to muscle. C. Bone to bone. D. None of these. Subjective DPP 7.2. Very short answer type questions. 1, 2, 3. The special property of muscle fibers to contract forcefully and return to relaxed state is called excitability, contractility, flexibility. A branch of science dealing with the study of bones is called ornithology, physiology, osteology. The fluid matrix of blood is called plasma, lymph, serum. Short answer type questions. 4, 5, 6. What do you mean by division of labor? Write the composition of mammalian blood. Long answer type question. Give summarized classification of animal tissue. Tissue. Muscular tissue. Movements are brought about in our body with the help of muscular tissues. A. Features. They are long fiber-like cells called muscle fibers. They are capable of contraction or relaxation. B. Types. It is of three types. I. Striated muscles. They are also called as voluntary muscles because these are under the control of one's will. Muscle fibers or cells are multinucleated and unbranched. Each fiber enclosed by thin membrane which is called as sarcolemma. Cytoplasm is called as sarcoplasm. These muscles get tired and need rest. E. Non-striated muscles. They are involuntary muscles also called as smooth muscles. These muscle fibers are anucleated and spindle-shaped. They are not enclosed by membrane but many fibers are joined together in bundles. Such muscles are found in the walls of stomach, intestine, urinary bladder, bronchi, iris of eye etc. Peristaltic movements in alimentary canal are brought about by smooth muscles. E. Cardiac muscle fibers. They are also involuntary muscles, only found in the walls of heart. Their structure is in between the striated and non-striated muscles. They are anucleated and branched. Branches are united by intercalated disc. In these muscles rhythmic contraction and relaxation occurs throughout the life. Nervous tissue. A. They are highly specialized tissue due to which the animals are able to perceive and respond to the stimuli. Their functional unit is called as nerve cell or neuron. Cell body is cytin covered by plasma membrane. Short, hair-like extensions siring from cytin are dendron which are future subdivide into dendrites. Axon is long, tail-like cylindrical process with fine branches at the end. Axon is covered by a sheath. Axon 1 neuron is very closely placed to the dendrons of another neuron to carry impulses from one to another neuron in the form of electrochemical waves. This close proximity is called as synapse. Types. Nerve fibers are of two types. I. Medullated fibers. E. B. Non-medullated fibers. Functions. I. They control all the body activities. They coordinate between various parts during any body. E. Function. Spinal cord and brain are made up of nervous tissue. Exercise. Objective DPP 8.1. 1. Contraction and relaxation are unique features of A. Epithelial tissue. B. Connective tissue. Muscle tissue. D. Nervous tissue. C. 2. The tissue which is under the control of animals' will is a cardiac muscle. Non-striated muscle. 3. B. Striated muscle. D. Cartilage. The muscle which works throughout life without undergoing fatigue is A. Striated muscle. B. Non-striated muscle. Cardiac muscle. 4. D. All of the above. Which of the following is a voluntary muscle? A. Striated muscle. B. Striated muscle. Cardiac muscle. 5. D. A and B. Wall of urinary bladder consist of A. Striated muscle. B. Striated muscle. C. Both of above. D. None of these 6. Intercalated discs are present in A. Striated muscle. B. Striated muscle. Cardiac muscle. 7. D. All of the above. The function unit of nervous tissue is called as A. Cytin. B. Synapse. 8. C. Neuron. Which type of tissue forms spinal cord and brain? A. Muscle tissue. B. Nervous tissue. Epithelial tissue. 9. D. Epidermis. Involuntary tissue forms wall of which of the following organ? A. Intestine. B. Stomach. The above 10. Movements in body are brought about by A. Muscle tissue. Tissue. C. Bones. Tendons and ligaments. C. Bronchi. C. D. Axon. C. D. All of. B. Epithelial. D. Subjective DPP 8. 2. Very short answer type questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Spindle-shaped, non-striated, involuntary muscle fibers present in hollow internal organs like urinary bladder are called smooth muscle fibers, striated muscle fibers, cardiac muscle fibers. The brain and the spinal cord are made up of nephrons, erythrocytes. Neurons. The small, branched processes of a nerve cell are called dendrites, axons, neurons. Short answer type questions. What is the function of nervous tissue? State the main features of muscular tissue. Long answer type question. Describe the structure of neuron with labeled diagram. Answer key objective DPP number 5.1 Q12345678 AADAABCAD objective DPP number 6.1 Q12345678 AABDBBDAC objective DPP number 7.1 Q12345678